First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
The former NYPD Lieutenant Commander, Joe Cardinale, is on the line right now. Joseph, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on here this morning. So, been a lot of talk over the last year, couple of years, on the abolishing the police, which goes really well. It sounds really good until all of a sudden one of those people need the police, and then they immediately want to call them, and it's like, wait, we abolished them. Who are you going to call? But in North Carolina, there's a story out there of a college course that is on. The course is about the abolishment of police. Am I correct?
Oh, absolutely.
What is going on?
The fact that this can even be put on the curriculum is more troublesome than anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about it. I mean, what are they doing with their funding? I mean, they sit back and go, what can we teach them? History? What can we teach them? Everything else? No. They're going to teach them how to dismantle the first line of defense in any community. And this is bizarre. It's beyond bizarre. I mean, where do they come off doing this? I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you think they're going to have students flocking to that college just to take this course?
Right.
I mean, they take this. You want to know something? They take this course on TV every day when they watch the news. Mm-hmm. All right, that's the course that's being taught to everybody across America. So now they want to put it and make it part of the curriculum. Ridiculous.
I wonder if, because I got to tell you, I do think that this is something that a lot of young people think is an option. When there will come a time in their lives where they're going to need the police. It's almost inevitable. And they're going to realize, oops, that's a mistake. And even if that means they buy a home and they live in a neighborhood and they want their neighborhood to be safe. But I wonder, and I'm trying to be open-minded here, is it possible that the professor's goal here is to bring this for open discussion and maybe walk away with these students changing their mind when it's all said and done? I mean, is that possible?
No, it's not possible because if you look at the agenda of most professors in college today, it's it's totally left, and they only have one agenda. All right, and we're heading for Marxism over here in this country. It's already here. It's already being taught. But just think about it, though. Think about what they're teaching. They're not teaching civil obedience. They're not saying, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you get pulled over by the police or if you have to have an interaction with the police, here's the best way to handle it.
Right.
Anything beyond that, just take it to to a higher level for the police department or in your community and handle it that way. But they're teaching them civil disobedience. All right, that's exactly what they're teaching them, and that's what's happening across this country.
I think I'm definitely. I'm going to try to see if we can get this professor on.
That would be great. I'd love to speak to this professor,
and then maybe we'll bring you in on the conversation, Joe. That would be kind of interesting too.
It would be very interesting.
And then I have to tell you, in New York, we're dealing with it's a very difficult time to be a police officer. And yes, there are stories that are out there, things that happen where there are some police officers that do wrong things, and that should not be tolerated. But at the same time, I feel like who would want to be a police officer right now with everything that's going on?
Well, nobody really wants to. I mean, we're having problems here in New York just getting people to take the exam.
Yeah.
And then when you do have people take the exam, it's the wrong people.
Right.
Right, because when you go through the process, the background investigations, they're going to rush them to get the classes in because we had such a high rate of retirements, and you had a high rate of people just leaving the job as well. Young guys are saying, "I don't need this."
Right.
And you can blame bail reform. You can blame most definitely the indemnification factor that nobody's going to back the cops up anymore.
Yeah.
So we need to change across New York, and I think you know that. The listeners know that. Here in New York City, they're going to have a mayoral election. I can, rest assured it's probably going to be Eric Adams, which, believe it or not, I do back him up because I want to give this man a shot because he sees it different than most Democrats do. Mm-hmm. He knows he needs his police department to interact with the community, and he knows he has to do it in an effective way to get this crime back to where it should be from years ago, from the Giuliani era. And we need a change in our government up in Albany. And I'm just hoping that Lee Zeldin, makes this a nice, strong run, and he can do the job because I guarantee you he will, take law and order stance.
Yeah.
And this is what we need in New York. this is exactly what we need.
Joe, it's interesting, and you I imagine still live in this city or the surrounding area. But with that mayor's race, with Eric Adams facing pushback from the quote unquote establishment there because of his stance on supporting police and law and order.
Well, you have to understand. I guarantee you, people will cross party lines to vote for him based on that law and order stance.
Yeah.
He's getting pushback from his own party, but you know what? He's still the top runner in his party. So what does that tell you? That even the Democratic constituents have had it with the law and order stance in the city, because it's true lawlessness right now. Bill de Blasio was an empty suit from day one. All right, he continues to be an empty suit, and he's leaving a legacy of being definitely the worst mayor ever in America. All right, because he did absolutely nothing to secure the safety of his constituents. All right, and he did it across the board. And I also, I find it funny that they'll go after Donald Trump's CFO and they'll put all this effort into it and run on a campaign to do something like that. But nobody challenges where the money went from Bill de Blasio's wife with all the missing money. Nobody challenged that whatsoever. And there's no investigation into that. That's where politics, it's all politics in New York. It's not about the safety of New Yorkers anymore.
Well, it's a difficult time right now, and with this bail reform and that sort of thing. You wonder. I mean, why arrest somebody when they? I almost. Do you think the fan that threw the baseball at the Boston Red Sox player should have been arrested?
Absolutely.
He didn't get arrested. But why wouldn't he get arrested for that?
I believe that.
They're so afraid to put the handcuffs on anybody today.
Yeah.
And you know what? The cops are handcuffed themselves. And I say it day in and day out on every show.
Yeah.
Take the handcuffs off the police. Let them do the job they're trained to do. All right, you'll see the guns come off the street. Over here in New York City, reinstitute street crime with stop and frisk done properly, and you'll see these guns coming off the street. Street crime was responsible for, I'd say, at least 70% of the guns coming off the street at one time.
Wow.
And if they don't get back to this, the guns are still going to be out there. Look at the shooter in Times Square, 16 years old, out on bail from a previous gun charge, right? And this is what he does. He goes back out there and he's given the opportunity to do it. Why? Everybody has sympathy for these criminals today. They don't care about the cops, but they worry about the criminals.
Monaski.
We even have a mayor here in Utica, a Democrat mayor who's been very supportive of Cuomo, but who came out recently because we've had a number of shootings, homicides, and basically blamed the bail reform, saying there was a guy that was arrested for illegal gun possession, basically was caught, ticketed, and released, and then a couple weeks later he's like the prime suspect in a homicide in the city. And that's the type of stuff that happens.
That's happening every single day. Every time you see one of these shooters, look at the arrest sheet.
Right.
Their rap sheet is so long, it's mind-boggling that they can even be out on the street.
The other part of this, Joe...
I understand they want to keep the jails low, keep it down in the jails and get the lower crimes. That's one thing. All right, you want to do something like that. But bail reform was just rammed down everybody's throat here in New York.
Yeah.
It's like we woke up one morning and said, welcome to bail reform. If you make that a referendum on an election, you'll see that turn around.
Yeah.
All right, you'll definitely see that turn around because even the Democrats, they've had it with it.
The other thing that I think is most concerning about all of this is the age of these kids that are out shooting up neighborhoods. They're kids. They're 15, 16 years old. What is going on?
They have no direction.
Yeah.
They have absolutely no direction. They don't, it's like the family life, is crucial to this as well. If you send your kids out in the street and you don't know what they're doing, that's a big problem right there. Yeah. But when they go outside and the gangs are the most enticing thing for them, they join these gangs. That's their way of life then. Yeah. And we're losing our inner city youth. So instead of defunding the police, take stock in your police department to go out there and do more youth programs. Interact with the community. It always worked before. It's been working forever since my dad was on the job. Yep. They had PAL, and PAL worked. Believe me, it worked. Yep. I mean, we see how many success stories come out of something like that. But when you have them challenging the police, and their goal of the day is to show what they can do to a police officer, or they can just go over to, when they had the gangs in the subways, when the Bloods were starting out, their big thing was to go over, and even if somebody didn't resist, they would have to cut them and draw some blood back then. We had cases like that, and these kids were 15 years old.
Yeah.
You have to give them some kind of direction.
Joe, we appreciate it as always. We'll do it again. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Well, take care now.
All right. Have a great day. Joe Cardinale, formerly of the NYPD. It is crazy right now. Seeing some really crazy stuff. And the age of these kids, I think, is just the worst part of the whole thing.
Yeah, I completely agree.
You know, and going out, I mean, we were talking about people just walking up to somebody and sucker punching. Angelo's character, body double, Rick Moranis, just walking down the street doing nothing at all, right? Somebody sucker punches him
it's
right in the
awful.
face.
That's New York for you, baby.
That's New York.